Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. Now, there is a debate over whether Einstein actually said this or whether it was misattributed to him. But regardless of who said this, it is true. If you understand the basic principles of compound interest, you can use it to your advantage. However, if you don't understand it, you may find it working against you. I'm going to explain what compound interest is, how anyone can use it, no matter how little or much money you have, and also give you a warning of when compound interest can work against you. Using compound interest to grow. Let's use an analogy that has been going around on the internet recently. This is called the 1% rule. So if you get just 1% better every single day at doing something, this effect will compound over time and bring you much bigger rewards. So the baseline is if you didn't improve each day, so you just stayed at the status you're in. So 1 to the power of 365 is still just 1. You're in the same position at the end of the year as you were at the start. However, if you just improved by 1% every single day, let's see how much better you would be at the end of the year. So 1.01 to the power of 365 would give you 37.8 times better. Now, this is a huge difference between staying at 1 versus becoming 37.8 times better over that course of a year. And the magic really is in the consistency. So in a normal workday, if you spent just 1% on your time focusing on getting better, this would only require 5 minutes out of the total of your day. And we really underestimate the successes we have from small actions. However, most successful people attribute their successes to these small incremental things that they've done over time. So bearing that analogy in mind, let's now look at the compound interest equation. Now, I'm starting off by showing this equation, but don't worry, you don't need to be good at maths to be able to understand the concepts and actually be able to use it to your advantage. So let's look at if you put your money into a high yield savings account. Now, all this account is, it's just a typical savings account with a slightly higher interest rate, which means your money will grow slightly faster than a typical savings account. And these are very simple to open. You just need to search for easy access savings account and then pick one with a good interest rate and no fees. So let's consider a high yield savings account with a 3% interest. So I've decided to put my emergency fund of £6,000 into this high yield savings account. So let's say I just kept this money in there for a year. I would have earned an additional £180 just through the interest. Now, if you did this for 2 years, you would have an additional £365 and then £556 in your third year, and so on. Now, let's talk about investing where you have the opportunity to get a higher interest rate. So we could plug these numbers into the compound interest equation, or we could use something called a compound interest calculator, which is much easier. Now, let's look at an example where I invest £1,000 today and I get a 7% interest rate, which is the average interest rate of the stock market, subtracting the average inflation per year, which gives the net gain of 7%. Now, in 5 years' time, I would have a total of £1,470 in that account. So this is £470 extra, almost a 50% increase on the money that I had, just due to the time and compound interest. In 10 years' time, I would have £2,000 in the account. And in 20 years' time, I would have £4,000 sat in that investment account. So just by keeping that money invested for 20 years, I would have got 4.6 times the amount of money that I actually put in. Now, one of the best ways to invest is to gradually add money into your account each month rather than waiting and investing a lump sum. This is called pound cost averaging. It makes it much easier to stay consistent, but also means you won't be investing too much money at a peak or at a dip. Let's look at how this works if you invested £200 a month. So if you invested £200 a month for a year, you would have put in £2,400 of your money in total, and you would have got an interest of £90. And if you continue doing this and paying in that £200 a month for 40 years, you would have paid in £96,000, and you would have a total of £548,000 in your account. You would have earned 6 times more in interest than the actual amount that you put in. So how much do you think you could invest per month, and how much would this grow to over 10, 20 or 40 years? Let me know in the comments below. So we've proved that compound interest can be really powerful in terms of growing your money or improving and learning and self-development. But now let's look at compound interest working against you. We've all been there, where one day we've got a perfectly clean house, all we do is we just put a few letters on the table and all of a sudden the whole room is a tip. And this is how you can visualize compounding against you. Just think of an example where you are 1% worse each day. So on the first day, you leave your paperwork on the table and you don't clear it up. On the second day, maybe you leave your clothes on the chair and you forget to put them back in your wardrobe. On the third day, maybe you leave your mug on the table or your glass and you forget to put that in the dishwasher. All of a sudden, these bad habits and the mess has just started compounding and everything has started to pile up on top of you. Now, this is very similar to how debt can creep up on you. So you might have different credit cards, loans, and a house mortgage. And if you're not paying these off regularly or in full, you'll find that the debt starts compounding and piling up. So let's look at the worst example, which is a credit card and usually has a very high interest rate. So on average, credit cards have an interest rate of around 40%. So let's say you owe £2,000 on your credit card. After a month, you would owe £2,066 because of this high level of interest. And after a year, you would owe £2,964 in total. So this is almost £1,000 more than your initial purchase of £2,000. So see how quickly debt can build up if you're not paying it off regularly. And this is especially key to remember with high interest debt like credit cards. So please, please, please make sure you're paying your credit cards off in full every single month. Now you understand how compound interest works, you probably want to put it into action. So check out this video here, which is a practical guide to show you how to invest your money and use compound interest to your advantage.